Hi, everybody. So wonderful to see you here today. Thank you so much for coming to the meeting 51 of the National COVID-19 Outdoor Learning Initiative's Community of Practice for Schools and Districts Moving Learning Outside. It is hard to believe we are indeed at meeting 51, 2 years, almost to the day of the time that we started this initiative. It's a special meeting. We have Karen, our colleague Karen Cowe, a founding member of the National Initiative, here to give a talk, and we will do some recapping at the end and have some reflections from some of our initiatives leaders along the way. So next slide, please. For those of you who are joining us for the first time today, this is the Community of Practice for Schools and Districts Moving Learning Outside. It's been hosted over the last year by myself, Sharon Danks, McKenna, and Nancy Striniste, all from Green Schoolyards America, on behalf of the National COVID-19 Outdoor Learning Initiative. Okay, and so without further ado, I would like to introduce our speaker today, who is our colleague and friend, Karen Cowe, CEO of 10 Strands. And she'll talk about her presentation today, Our Journey Outside, Efforts to Scale Connections Between Education, Environment, and Community. And I first just want to say it's been a pleasure working with Karen over the last 2 years and her whole team on the National Outdoor Learning Initiative. And she's really helped to make this whole initiative possible by helping to bring the team together and to seek the funding support that has allowed us to do this work. So we're very grateful for that and for all of her efforts and her team's efforts in working on this. And so we're thrilled today to focus on the work that 10 Strands does. And Karen, here's some information about Karen's background. Karen Cowe is an education industry executive with over 30 years of experience in sales and fund development, marketing, program design, professional learning, business development, and operations. Prior to joining 10 Strands, she was president and chief executive officer of Key Curriculum Press, an innovative and award-winning K-12 STEM publisher. Before that, she was managing director of Burlington Books in Athens, Greece, the first publisher in Greece to offer locally focused English language instructional materials for Greek students. In addition to her understanding of the complexities of the US education landscape, she has valuable insights into education in other nations, having built relationships in Europe, Asia, Australia, and New Zealand. Karen holds a bachelor's degree in business and a minor in education from St. John's College, York, and a master of business administration from St. Mary's College, California. So welcome, Karen. We're excited to hear your presentation today and hear more about your work with 10 Strands.
Thank you, Sharon. So hi, everybody. I was just looking at who's in the room, and I see some familiar names, not a lot, so that's good. It's always really good to meet new people. Right now, actually, I'm in Scotland. I'm from Scotland, and right now I'm sitting in Edinburgh, and I'm looking out over a river, and on the other side of the river, there's a woman feeding the birds. It's really a lovely sort of evening scene as the sun's beginning to go down here. So you can imagine me looking out over a river at some trees with a woman standing feeding the birds. So that's exactly where I am right now. So Sharon, thank you for acknowledging the partnership. I too have really appreciated what we've been doing together. Well, really for on and off for the last 10 years, but this very specific focus for the last 2 years has just been an amazing journey with you and your team. And the other founding partners and the whole community that came together around this work. We at 10 Strands have somewhat been behind the scenes in terms of the contribution to the initiative. So today we just want to step forward a little bit and share a little bit about what we do at 10 Strands. We're based in California, and most of our work is focused on California, except for this one national initiative. And as I was thinking about, I went out with Sharon just before I came to Scotland over the weekend, and I was thinking about the work that we do. And actually, you know, we didn't immediately start outside, thinking about learning outside. We believe in it, of course, and it's important, but but initially when we got started, it's not where we started, and certain things have happened over time, and over time we've moved outside, and I wanted to share that journey with you a little bit. Lauren and my team is advancing the slides, so Lauren, if you could advance to the next one, that would be great. So just a little bit about 10 Strands. We're in our 10th year, and we have about 10 people on the teams. There's a lot of tens floating around, but our focus, we launched 10 Strands in the middle of 2012 and properly at the beginning of 2013. And what we were eager to do was to see what we could do to advance student environmental literacy in California. And we've been doing that for the last almost 10 years. On that journey, we decided that what we would not do is we decided not to do what others do well. And we decided instead we would see if we could position ourselves to help catalyze the field. So in the same way that, for example, there's not much financial literacy taught in schools, we were observing, because all of us had worked in the education system, that there was not much environmental literacy happening in schools. And so we thought, might it be possible for us to catalyze the field? And so we've done a number of things. I won't get into all of those things today, but just to say, in addition to 10 Strands, we are also the backbone organization. We're the backbone organization that supports the California Environmental Literacy Initiative. And that is a statewide public-private partnership that was launched at the end of 2015 to implement California's blueprint for environmental literacy. And that work is going strong. And then the second sort of backbone role we took was with the National COVID-19 Outdoor Learning Initiative, with Sharon's team at Green Schoolyards America, Craig Strang's team at the Lawrence Hall of Science, and he's spoken, I know, at one of these events, and then Andra Yegoian and her team at San Mateo County Office of Ed, and then 10 Strands. So we're in this nice position of being focused on catalyzing student environmental literacy, and then we're also backbone support to the California Environmental Literacy Initiative and the National COVID-19 Outdoor Learning Initiative. So that's just a little view from on high in terms of what 10 Strands does. So next slide, please, Lauren. So as I said, we didn't really, when we first started, so my background is publishing. As Sharon said, I was working for a publishing company in Greece, and then I moved to the States, moved to California in 1996, so a long time ago now. And for 16 years, I was working in the publishing sector. And so it was natural for me, when I first started to think about student environmental literacy, to think about what kids were using in class, what students were using in class. And we established, 10 Strands established an early partnership with the Office of Education and the Environment at Cal Recycle, because they were, at the time, responsible for promoting California's model curriculum, the Education Environment Initiative curriculum, into California schools. And so we partnered with them, and these numbers on the slide are represent the impact that we had with that program. So over a period of time, 3 to 4 years primarily, we were able to influence 33,500 teachers in the California system in about 6,000 schools. There's 10,000 schools in California. So that program had some impact. And there's that very large number of lessons. So what that told us was certainly that California teachers had an appetite for thinking about ways to use the environment as an integrating context in standards-based settings. And so my business partner, Will, who founded 10 Strands, he had been a classroom teacher for a decade before founding 10 Strands. And so we were very much sort of in familiar territory. He had been in the classroom using obviously curricular resources, and I had been in the publishing sector creating curricular resources for people like Will to use in the classroom. So we're very pleased with the success of this work, but we were eager to see what more could be done. And just to say, just before I move on to the next slide, recently, the Office of Education and the Environment dialed back on their support of this program. And so we've actually taken it over in the sense that we're making all of the materials available to teachers for free. And so if Lauren hasn't already done so, the other Lauren that's managing the links, if we could put a link in there just to the page on our website where all of these materials are available for free. And the orange boxes here on this slide, if you click any one of those orange boxes, it'll take you to those materials and you can download them for free forever, basically. So next slide. So some things happened on this journey that we've been on that really created opportunities for us to start to explore learning outside of the classroom. These are somewhat in order, but these, to me, I was thinking about this morning. I was thinking, like, what are the sort of major milestones that really accelerated us taking the work outside? The first was through some work we did with a consultant, Dr. Gerald Lieberman. We were able to influence the California Science Framework, and in a number of ways. But one of the ways sort of important to this issue that we're talking about is we were able to add outdoor learning as a valid instructional strategy in the framework. So just like project-based learning was articulated as a valid strategy, just like the 5E model was articulated as a valid strategy in the framework, in the California Science Framework, outdoor learning is articulated as a valid strategy. So that was something that we organized around and made happen, and we were able to illuminate those ideas for all California teachers. The second thing was, this is 2015 I'm talking about now, we had an early relationship with San Mateo County. I saw Andra just getting on. She's the environmental literacy coordinator there. And in that relationship, in that early relationship with the county, we were working with teachers on creating units of study focused on the next generation science standards, but focused on local environmental contexts. And by design, we decided to work with local non-formal partners and encourage them to do shoulder work with teachers. And for me, coming from math education primarily before I started this work, I hadn't really considered that as a deeply enriching thing. And that first summer, we had 90 teachers. We were working with 90 teachers, and we partnered them with local non-formal providers who did on-campus work. So out of the classroom, on-campus work and field work. And there was just some magic that happened that summer. And we're now in our 8th year of doing that work with San Mateo. So that was the second factor for us. And then California published a blueprint for environmental literacy. And in the blueprint for environmental literacy, the value of outdoor learning was articulated, including in the blueprint's definition of environmental literacy. And so we carried that forward into the implementation of the blueprint. First, we were the Environmental Literacy Steering Committee, and then we became the California Environmental Literacy Initiative. And so embedded in all of the ideas in that blueprint is this articulation of the value of outdoor learning. And then California has something called environmental principles and concepts. They're big ideas that articulate the interdependence of natural systems and human social systems. And again, through the work that we did with Dr. Gerald Lieberman, we were able to integrate these environmental principles and concepts not only into the science framework, but also into history, social science, arts, health, and math. So all of these activities, these prior 4 activities for us, shifted us from this very classroom-centric beginning point to also thinking about campuses and community in our work. Actually, in the early days of just really focused on the EI curriculum, that curriculum in a sense was really designed with equity in mind, because at the time, what they were aiming for was an arrangement where any teacher in any school whether they had a lot of resources or fewer resources, could use the curriculum. So by design, it was very democratic, it was very equitable, and just over time, there's been this, at least on our part, this embracing of really thinking about including outdoor learning in our work. And then, of course, the fifth thing is how we came together around this work to launch the National COVID-19 Outdoor Learning Initiative 2 years ago. And I know that we're going to celebrate that anniversary today as well. So that's a little bit of our journey and how we ended up doing more work in the outdoor learning space. Next slide. So some other things, and I also wanted to share some resources with you. So there's going to be quite a lot of links coming through in a minute, because in addition to the library, the vast library now that was going to be a little book, but became this huge library on the Outdoor Learning Initiative, we have been producing resources recently that also support counties and districts and schools under some of the other initiatives that we run. So I just want to touch on them briefly. The first is the California Environmental Literacy Initiative. That's that backbone entity, public-private partnership implementing the blueprint. And within the last year, in addition to all of the work we've done with the Outdoor Learning Initiative, we've produced some resources that are useful to the field, we think. The first is the CHILE Community-Based Partner Hub and a Community-Based Partner Network Toolkit. So the hub is a database of all, well, not all, eventually it will be all, but of many of the community-based partners focused on environmental literacy in California. And anybody can make an entry, anybody who has that service to offer can make an entry into that database, but we've organized it around county offices of ed so that those entities are in relationship with county offices of ed. So that's one thing that's now available, and all of these are on the CHILE website. The second thing is a toolkit, a network toolkit to help county offices of ed and school districts think about how they might forge relationships with non-formal providers of environmental ed and environmental justice. So those two things work hand in hand, the hub, which is a database, and then a toolkit that helps forge those connections. And then with our partners at the Lawrence Hall of Science, we took some of the ideas out of the library for the Outdoor Learning Initiative and shaped them to think about how you might start to approach a conversation with a district to provide some just stimulating thoughts or menus of how they might proceed with this work. So that's another resource, and hopefully it's getting dropped in the chat. And then we've learned over time, as we've been doing this work with schools and school districts, that we really see the value of in county offices of ed being a backbone organization to support this work. So Andra, who's on the call and who works in San Mateo County, has really been instrumental, an instrumental sort of driving influence in thinking about county offices of ed in this way. So we just published 2 case studies, one focused on San Mateo County and the other focused on Orange County. And then 2 other resources, one is a call to action for county, district, and educational leaders, and the other a call to action for teachers to embrace this work. So all of that is not part of the main library that we're talking about normally on these calls, but as part of the California Environmental Literacy Initiative, and you can go and retrieve them. Everything's for free. And then I just want to, for the National COVID-19 Outdoor Learning Initiative, before we get into the role that we played there, for me, I want to highlight the teaching and learning component. The library is vast and valuable. And when we think about it, we think about designing spaces, we think about teaching and learning that can happen in those spaces. And then obviously we think about student health and well-being. The piece of it that I feel particularly attached to are the teaching and learning resources. And I just wanted to connect everybody to that. And then 2 other things that 10 Strands is focused on right now. The first is a new project where we're working in partnership with the state of California and San Mateo County Office of Ed. They keep coming up, San Mateo, but they're a very important partner to us. And we just launched a project, and we will be creating curricular resources focused on climate change and environmental justice. That work has now launched, and we will have 2 years to work on them, and they will be published hopefully by June 2014. And then the last thing to mention is, for a few years now, we've been working with the higher ed sector in California, specifically the UC and the CSU system, the University of California and the California State University systems, on a project called Eclipse. And Eclipse is focused on working with teachers when they're in a pre-service capacity and eventually in an in-service capacity, and supporting teachers to think about how they might introduce climate literacy, environmental literacy into standards-based instruction, mostly in science, but also in history, social science, and other subjects. So that's just a snapshot of what 10 Strands is focused on right now. California Environmental Literacy Initiative, National COVID-19 Outdoor Learning Initiative, the Climate Change and Environmental Justice Program, and then the Environmental and Climate Change Literacy Projects, or Eclipse. Next slide, please. So for this project, and thinking about its future, well, first of all, just to share our role in it, and then thinking about what we're focused on now, and what things might be, just a little future look, like what might things look like in 2 years. So at the beginning of this project, when we convened everybody around that webinar, that was, I think, on the 4th of June, the 2nd or the 4th of June, like almost 2 years ago, when 1,000 people showed up. After the webinar, we were all sitting around and we were like, who can do what? Like, who can do what in order to move this fast? And so what we felt we could do at 10 Strands was to fundraise for the backbone support, for the entities that were providing the backbone support. So that's what we did. We dug in and we did that. And we did that in 2020, and we did it in 2021, and we're continuing to do it. The second thing that we thought we could do, while everybody was busy creating the resources, was contribute to the press effort, by which, if you've been sitting in on these sessions, they've been, you know that the press effort was extensive. So interviewing, writing articles. Sharon and I wrote a number of articles together. Craig and I wrote some articles together, and then presentations. And so the last of which, the most recent of which, was when we were invited to South by Southwest EDU to talk about the work. So that was kind of how we thought we could best show up. And then right now, what we're thinking about, and just in terms of 10 Strands, but also in conversation with the other founding partners, is we have this amazing body of work, and people are using it and doing amazing things, and we're capturing case studies, and we're bringing people together. How do we make sure that that momentum doesn't slip, right? So how do we deliberately, purposefully activate this network, right? So I have this just little 2-year projection, like if I could be sitting here 2 years from now with respect to activating this, continuing to activate the work, and thinking as COVID drifts a little bit into the background, and climate always was in the foreground, but climate, and thinking about climate resiliency, and this shift to thinking about this whole initiative, rather than being only a COVID response, could it also be a climate response? So we're thinking some of these thoughts. So raise money and hire a person, basically, to be, for want of a better word, a business development director for the initiative. And within this 2-year period, they will have organized the library of over 200 resources into accessible pathways for school districts and site leaders. That's beginning to happen already, but really get to grips with it and fully take that on. And then just thinking about harnessing this robust network of contributing participants and practitioners, and bringing those two things together, not leaving anything to chance, not hoping that people will sort of stick with the initiative. And then with those two pieces in place, think about productive matchmaking of district and site needs, practitioner expertise, and the use of the resources in the library, so that we get to a place where we can count the degree to which we're able to provide technical assistance to X number of school districts. We haven't come up with the number yet across the country. And then to actually use these assets, the resources that have been created, the practitioner expertise, the technical assistance, to arrive at a place where we're generating, we don't have to fundraise for it, but school districts are actually, contributing fee for service opportunities. So this can be a self-sustaining initiative to really make all of this worthwhile and not make it just some wonderful thing that we all came together to do during the pandemic, right? So those are some of the ways in which we're thinking about, at 10 Strands anyway, about continuing to contribute to this. All right, I think that's it. And I think that's mostly what I wanted to share, super high level, but I wanted to get some of those resources in front of you. Lauren, next slide, please. Yeah, that's it. So that's my name, my contact information. So I think Sharon, you can, or Lauren, you can stop sharing the slides and we can move to Q&A if people have anything they want to explore with me.
Thank you so much for sharing your work, Karen. It's amazing what 10 Strands is doing, and it's really shifted the dialogue in California and elsewhere to the contributions have been really successful in shifting what's happening. So it's wonderful to see, and thank you for telling us about it.
Sure.
And yeah, we would love to have questions from the group. If you want to jump in, please feel free.
I wanted to comment on the 10 Strands new curriculum that they published about a week ago or 10 days ago, which is, I think, going to be very helpful. We shared it at our LA Climate Reality Project meeting last Saturday, and I reported to them the format of it that was really handy. It includes materials for social studies and history, which is kind of more rare out there. There's also plenty of science materials, and there's materials for every grade level at every and many subjects. And one of the interesting approaches was to make everything a PDF, or most things, not everything, but a lot of things are in the PDF form that makes them very easy to use. And so I really appreciate over the years, as I got active about a year ago with the passing the LAUSD climate resolution, climate literacy resolution, I needed to learn about what was happening with the community. And two of my favorite sites were the Green Schoolyards community of practice, where I could see how people all over the country were able to overcome the existing situations and transform their schools. It was so inspirational. And then 10 Strands has been, spreading curriculum and ideas amongst all of the state of California, which is so nice to have that happening. So inspirational. So if anybody is new to this business and wants to get really involved, those are two great places to start.
Well, Charles, thank you for saying that. And your name definitely looks familiar to me. And you and the people you were working with on the LA board resolution did an amazing job. So congratulations on getting that passed. Yeah. And thank you for discovering us as well. It's crowded in education, with all the focus on math and English, and then eventually people get to science, and eventually people get to history, social science. And so taking something like concepts associated with environmental literacy and pulling them through so that they can be integrated into all of those subjects has certainly been a journey. And appreciate you recognizing it and including discovering the library associated with this project. So thank you.
I see that Becca has her hand up.
Thanks. I have two questions, and Karen, I apologize. I had to step away for a second during your presentation, so I might have missed this if you spoke to it, but I'm curious about 10 Strands' role in supporting the Senate bill that that helps with outdoor learning in California related to the core concepts, environmental literacy core concepts, and your approach to that. And then I'm also curious about this public-private partnership, and are you all a nonprofit arm of that, and how does, so I'm curious about that.
So the bill is the bill that you're referring to, SB 720, that was passed a few years ago. Yeah,
so in 2018 or something.
Yeah, well done. Yeah, exactly. Signed by Governor Brown on a solar yacht in the Bay. Well, we were the organizers of that. And what we wanted to do with that bill was to, a lot of this work related to environmental literacy was articulated in our public resources code. And we wanted those ideas articulated in our education code because we felt it belonged there too. And we took the big ideas in the blueprint for environmental literacy and we distilled them down. And we were able to successfully get those big ideas embedded into our education code. But I think the biggest victory tied to that bill was we were able to add climate change and environmental justice to the list of topics covered by our environmental principles and concepts. And we succeeded, and therefore it made it possible for us to go back in 2021 and see if we could secure some state money to develop model curriculum units focused on climate change and environmental justice. So it was a sort of two-part process. We got the bill in 2018, and then we got the appropriation to support the bill in 2021. And we would have done it sooner, but COVID happened, right? So that's why there was a little bit of a gap between the two things. And then your second question about the public-private partnership. So when California published its blueprint at the end of 2015, the superintendent, Tom Torlakson, at the time, asked us if we would support the implementation of it by being the backbone entity. And we launched as the Environmental Literacy Steering Committee. And we performed a similar function to this initiative by raising money and bringing people together. When he turned out, we wanted to continue the work. So it was a project of the superintendent, but we wanted to continue the work. So we reorganized ourselves in public-private partnership, and we renamed ourselves the California Environmental Literacy Initiative. And we've been working under that umbrella since, well, he turned out at the end of 2018, so since the beginning of 2019. And, this project, the National COVID-19 Outdoor Learning Initiative, was organized loosely around collective impact. And that project is organized around public-private partnership. And so it accomplishes the same thing. It brings people together who are like-minded with expertise to sort of move the needle on the ideas that we're all getting organized around.
And so that's super helpful, both those answers. Thank you so much, Karen. And really amazing work with SB 720. And that's really neat that there's appropriations that happen. I'm sorry it took so long, but it's great that it happened. So 10 Strands itself, though, you are a nonprofit and have been since the beginning, since 2012.
Yes. Yes, although we do some lobbying, which is somewhat unusual for a nonprofit, but that's
what I was curious about because of your role in legislation. So I was kind of trying to figure out, I know that there's some misconceptions about what nonprofits are allowed and not allowed to do. And it seems like you all have pushed against that, which is great.
You're allowed to invest 20% of non-restricted money.
Huh.
That's all. So it's frugal.
Is that just California or is that nationally?
it's nationally, it's for nonprofits, it's for 501c3s. So it's 20% of your non-restricted money. And yeah, I call it frugal advocacy. A good job, I'm Scottish. We know how to be frugal.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks.
I see in the chat that there's a question from Eugenie. Could you share suggested resources for social justice and educating young children, including actions they might take?
Well, the materials that we're about to create with the appropriation that was tied to SB 720 will be K-12 materials, and they will be focused on both climate change and environmental justice. There are materials that are out there that have focused on that, and but not, as far as I'm aware, focused entirely on California, which is what we want to do. We want to really try and make them place-based for California and to cover California's environmental justice issues. And so you can imagine some of the themes that we will inevitably explore. But Andra, who I think is still on the call, yeah, I know that Andra, that you track a lot of curricular resources that that both look at issues related to climate change but I also think you've tracked some resources that are focused on environmental justice, right?
Yeah, definitely. I've got some resources that could be shared there. I can put some stuff in the chat box if that's useful.
Right. Andra's always got a document. Whatever topic you want to talk about, just say it and she'll send you a document.
There's a document for that.
She's somebody you want like around you for resource sharing and many other reasons.
Wonderful. So thank you so much, Karen, for this.
You're welcome, Sharon.
Wonderful presentation and dive into your work. And it's just really exciting what you're doing. And we thank you for all of your contributions to the state and to our initiative here with the National COVID-19 Outdoor Learning Initiative, and ongoing partnerships are fabulous. So thank you.
Thank you. Yep. Thank you.
And so now I thought we would switch into a little bit of or since we're in our 51st of 51 meetings here, that will take some time to talk about and reflect on the initiative in the last 2 years. I thought we would show you just this link to a map that shows examples that we have written up on case studies of schools that went outside during the pandemic, and also news reports of schools around the country that went outside. And I think that is our clearest example of what this initiative produced together is hundreds, and I think thousands. Hundreds we've documented for sure by name and place, but I think it is more like thousands of schools that went outside over the last 2 years using materials from this initiative that many of you contributed to and led. And that's just amazing. And I know we're tracking and are in the process of writing up an impact report, and it includes, I think, 6 states that have policy changes in their state level documents that now encourage outdoor learning. There's action at the federal level with the US Department of Education encouraging it, in our own state here in California and elsewhere. So we've really, together, we've all made a huge difference on this field. And I think just having been in the Green Schoolyard work for the last 20 years, it feels like we've got about a 10 times increase in interest in it overall in being outside. And I think that's partly due to the pandemic driving everyone outdoors, but the intersection of that with this work has been really phenomenal. And so I just want to start this reflective time by saying thank you. Thank you to everyone. Thank you to the founding partners of the initiative, 10 Strands and San Mateo County, Lawrence Hall of Science, and Green Schoolyards America's staff. And also I would include in that colleagues from San Francisco Unified School District who helped us and weren't logoed partners, but they definitely formed the initiative as well. And that's Karen Cowe, Craig String, Tamara Barlev, Vanessa Carter, Andra Yegoian, And then there were so many working group leaders and other key thought leaders who helped us structure this initiative from the beginning. And that includes many in this room, including Yalda, Modabber, Nancy Striniste, who began as an incredible volunteer and is now on our staff at Green Schoolyards America, Claire Latane, and there's and many others, and I could list the 25 or so names in the who are leading our working groups, and maybe it would be good to just do that too. They were Candace Dickens Russell, Jill Grace, Celeste Royer, Tamar Barlev, Claire Latane, Naomi Stern, Andra Yegoian, Nancy Striniste, Trudy Garber, Jenny Mulholland Beers, Vanessa Carter, Jetta Foreman, Rachel Pringle, Emily Weiss, Amity Sandage, Wanda Stewart, Sarah Bly, Mary Michaud, Zach Pine, Sarah Gill, Kirk Ann Taylor, Kyle McDonald, Mary Filardo, Tim Baird, Tony Knight, Jeff Vincent, and many others were providing key roles in our working groups. And then hundreds of volunteers who helped us. I know many of you are also on the call. Thank you so much. And this, the success of what we've done together is only possible through this type of collaboration, and everyone played a key role. And we see it, and it's really important. Oh, and I should also say too, of course, foundation partners who were amazing and helped us to run the initiative and make it possible to have a backbone, and that includes the California Collaborative for Environmental Excellence, the California Community Foundation, ECF, the Heller Charitable Foundation, the Gordon and Betty Moore Foundation, the Morgan Family Foundation, the David and Lucille Packard Foundation, Pisces Foundation, and Silicon Valley Community Foundation. And I also want to say a special thanks to my team at Green Schoolyards America, who has been incredible throughout this entire 2 years. And that includes Rachel Pringle, Nancy Striniste, Kyle McDonald, Lauren McKenna, Ida Lee, Kevin Perdomo, Lonnie Klein. Thank you to everyone. And so with that, I want to invite some of our leaders who are here today to say a few words and just reflect on it as you like. There's probably about 5 of you, so a few minutes each maybe. Yalda, do you want to begin?
Sure, thank you. First of all, thank you for this incredible work that you've done, Sharon and Karen and Craig and everybody on the team, Andra. I was thinking a little bit about how we ended up here. Sharon and I have been collaborating for a long time, probably, I think maybe 10 years or a little, I don't know, anyway, long time. And she's brought a lot of people through to our school. We've been using our school as a model for communities to rethink the way that schools should look, feel, operate, with a big emphasis on getting kids outside and integrating nature into their curriculum, and experiential learning and all the stuff that I know we all appreciate and value in this room. But when the shelter in place hit, I had this moment for about 2 weeks. It was a long moment. I felt, I think we all have memories of that time. It was really dark and the uncertainty, and it was just such a strange period. And a lot of us were in different stages of sort of grief and disbelief of what our new reality was. And mine was focused around, I think I felt very silly. I went through this mental process of like, I felt like the work that we had been doing leading up to that period just felt, for lack of a better word, silly. That it felt like the future of education was going in the exact opposite direction. And everybody was going online, and my kids were in front of computers, and I raised my kids without screens for a long time until they finished middle school. And all of a sudden they were in front of screens 24/7, and everybody was in front of a screen all over the world. And I felt like I needed to rethink and to adjust and just to take time and understand how that was going to impact our work with kids. And then we learned more about the virus, and we realized that it's airborne, and we started to understand how we could actually get kids back in school safely outside. And then I was like, yes. And then it was just like the silver lining on this horrible thing that was happening in our world. And then I found out about this group and just dove in head first. And it was really, it was so supportive and validating and inspiring, and it helped us continue our work, but then it just exploded exponentially. And those 2 years were really focused on working with schools and getting people outside. And now, as things are settling back in, we're going back to our old work, which is really interesting. The last few months of people coming to us have been, again, focused on nature and getting kids outside, but not a focus on COVID, but more on just creating healthy spaces for kids. So thank you for this. It was really, I don't know what those 2 years would have been like without this initiative. So thank you.
Thank you, Yalda. Thanks so much for reflecting and for all that you've done. And Claire, would you like to share your reflections?
Sure. So I so appreciate those thoughts, Yalda, and I think those first weeks after pandemic, I had just transitioned to teaching at the university and thinking I'm escaping my screen, and then like everyone else. And my first reaction was sort of despair, like with all of the conversations around mental health and access to nature and the research that's been supporting the benefits of access to nature for 50 years, have we really come to this moment where we're negating the importance of the school environment and the school as a resource for parents and families and children? So it was, I think my first reaction was despair and anger that it seemed like nobody was talking about just how unjust removing the school overnight was for families that didn't have family close by or resources or the ability to get online even. And so this group, this initiative, Sharon reaching out to me after a few years of collaborating was really a lifeline. And I share that idea of validation. And it was a lifeline, I think, at a time when, when for us teaching online, whether you're K through 12 or university, watching students and families just really not have anywhere to turn it was an amazing resource. And I think one of the most gratifying parts of this collaboration has been being connected with all of you who are connectors in ideas, connectors of people, and being able to see and help each other amplify our messages into new audiences around the country and even regionally and locally in California. I've seen in the last 2 years, my work is focused on the importance of design in supporting mental health and well-being, and designed learning environments in particular, but also community environments. And I've seen an explosion of people's willingness to talk about mental health and people's understanding of the connection of built environments to mental health and well-being, as well as physical health. And that's been incredibly gratifying.
Thank you so much for that, Claire, and for founding and running the Emergency Schoolyard Design Volunteers throughout the initiative. And that was an amazing effort and appreciated greatly. Thank you so much. And Andra, would love to invite you to speak next. Andra co-founded this community of practice with me and Tamara Barlov, and also is a co-founder of the whole initiative itself, and just like to give you some time here to chime in. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm just so grateful, Sharon, to you and all the other founding partners, but to you in particular for just carrying this year and really making it bigger and really starting to connected to this broader effort of climate resiliency as well. It's been so exciting to see how that has transitioned. And I know for me in San Mateo County, we're super grateful that we were part of this initiative, but it also really deepened our work and our whole systems approach and really helped us get a lot more school districts engaged. And we're just amazed to see how many of our school districts have really done this work and are moving living schoolyards forward in a really comprehensive way. We've done now, like, I think 4 or 5 district-wide living schoolyard plans with different districts that are really looking at an equity-based approach and really taking into account things like climate resiliency and shade trees. So none of that would have been possible without being connected to this initiative. So very grateful to have been a part of this, and just excited to see where it's going to head next. So thanks for having me involved, and it's been a joy.
Thanks so much, Andra. And it's just been amazing to watch everything happening in San Mateo County and on all fronts on this initiative and on the climate work that you're doing. It's phenomenal. And thank you for all the collaboration in the initiative. And now, Lauren, would you like to say some reflections? Lauren's been helping us to lead these meetings, helping to manage the meetings themselves and keep us running on a smooth front. And it's just greatly appreciated. But to hear any thoughts you might want to add.
Sure. Just quickly, it was on the foundation of all the work that all of you have been doing. And I know many of the folks in the room here and not here have been hard at work in their own corner for years, if not decades. And so to be able to meet some of you personally and be inspired has been such a joy and a privilege. So keep up the good work. What a powerhouse group here. Thank you, Sharon, and everyone for your dedication to kids in this country and all over the world.
Thanks so much, Lauren. Really appreciate all of your help. And Nancy, would you like to say a few words? You were such a Nancy volunteered amazingly for a whole year and then joined our staff. Has been on our staff for the last year. It's contributed so many things, beautiful website and many other, leading the outdoor infrastructure working group with others. And so just thank you.
Well, yeah, it has been a life-changing experience for me to get to work with all of you and to get to meet so many of you in the community of practice, to get to have the opportunity to curate the resources that you all created, and working closely with Sharon and Lauren, especially. I'm just so grateful for this experience and so proud of the work that we've all done together. So thank you all, and yeah, keep up the good work.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you so much. And Karen, would you like to say any other reflections as we close?
Yeah. Has anybody thanked you yet? I think we need to thank you. I mean, everybody's been amazing, but Sharon, I don't know how many 4 a.m.s you counted in the last 2 years. So thank you for being a night owl. It actually works very well when I'm in Scotland and you're in California, because we're actually then finally on the same schedule.
Indeed.
But Sharon, really, we've all worked really hard on this and produced amazing things. And I think you're the little engine that could. And you really went above and beyond to keep everything going. So I know I'm saying this from everybody, but thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate that very much. And I know we're just about at time, so I wanted to add where we're heading next to. I think we, as Karen mentioned, are hoping to use the library actively, hoping to keep the community engaged actively. We at Green Schoolyards America are also returning to our main focus of work, which is ecological schoolyard design, use, and practice, and scaling up that system. And so you'll be hearing a lot more from us in the future on that topic. We'll be weaving it into the main library, and we'll be focused on climate resilience on school grounds and helping kids to have more shade at school where they are. And so with that, I'd like to formally close our meeting 51 and this community of practice for the National COVID-19 Outdoor Learning Initiative. Thank you all. Thank you so much.